Hello everybody. So my name is Verburg, Hamlett, and I am recording this as our final project presentation for the DMAIC project, and mine was on free time and quilting. So, starting with define phase, my original central question was I was not able to complete my quilting hobby projects. And so I was trying to figure out what I could do to increase my throughput on my hobbies. And so I have hobbies for a variety of reasons because it's important to have hobbies to relieve stress. I'm not really a creative person, so my scrapbooking and my quilting, and those are really my creative outlets. And then I kind of fashion that I'm a lifelong learner because I am still wanting to learn new things. And so I take community education classes on quilting. And that's what got me started into quilting, was a community ed class. And so I like to learn new techniques and new blocks and new things like that. So that's why I have hobbies. But Christmas is approaching. And my quilting hobbies are associated around Christmas, so I'm making a quilt for my brother and sister-in-law for their bed. They're into camo, so it's a camo quilt. And then I also wanted to make some placemats. So we've typically bought placemats. I have tons of placemats. I go to a lot of estate auctions, so I buy tons of other stuff there too. But I've never made my own, so I decided to make my own. And I even was starting this back in like June and July, thinking about what I wanted to do for these placemats. So I've got all kinds of pictures and ideas, and I love going to the quilting store and buying fabric that I have no clue what I'm going to do with. But still, I have plenty of stuff to do with my placemats, and so I have been working on them slowly but surely. But Christmas is coming. So based on this, I made my goal to use at least 50% of my free time on quilting. But before I got to that goal, I wanted to work through why all of my quilting projects aren't getting completed. And so I started by looking at Fishbone. So using the Fishbone tool, I looked at all the possible reasons why I'm not completing my quilting projects. And so there's a lot of them. I use the traditional categories of materials, methods, people, machines, those kind of things. So looking at that, maybe my room was too cold. I kind of a wuss when it comes to coldness. I really would like to be warm. I'm a warm, cozy person. And so and then also my desk. So my quilting area is in the entry room to our house. So there's lots of stuff that always gets put on my desk because it's the only spare space, and I live with two men and they don't want to clean up their spare spaces. So I have to clean off my desk frequently. And then I have these lovely little four-legged creatures. I have several of these little four-legged kitties. None of them are kittens. They're all old cats, so they're cranky. But they like to help, and sometimes they're really not that much of a help, but you can't tell them that because they think they are. So they frequently cause additional time on my projects, trying to get them to leave my fabric alone, quit running off with my fabric, quit attacking the fabric while I'm trying to cut it. Yeah, those kind of things. And then I went on into my project size. Maybe I've got a big one or a small one. And then looking at the methods, is my sewing machine working? Is my iron working? Do I have enough material? And like I said, I really like spending time at the quilting store, so that should not be an issue. My sewing machine is fairly new. I just got a new one 2 years ago, so it's nice and functioning well, and I take it back to the shop to have it PM program completed. And then looking at people, do I have the time? The materials we've kind of talked about. And then again, the machines and equipment, is my iron functioning and my desk clean? So after doing this Fishbone and looking at all the different reasons that I maybe am not completing my quilting projects, I decided to start cutting things off, and based on likelihood came out with that it's a time issue. So I did an additional Fishbone on what time, where do I spend my time? And so I've got a variety of things that take up time. I teach at the College of Southern Idaho, so that's my school and my work, because I mix them up all the time. I also work at a dairy, so I have that. And then I'm taking classes because I want to get my master's degree. And I'm also concurrently working on my EDD program as well. So I'm taking some classes for my master's and some for my EDD. At the house, there's always housework to do. There's something to vacuum or clean or dishes to be done, those kind of things. I have donkeys and goats and cows and dogs too. And so there's things to be done there, taking care of the animals, feeding, bedding, those kind of things, especially come winter now that we're doing a lot more, making sure water troughs are working and everything. And then there's the family commitment. So I have my husband and my father, and so there's always laundry to be done, there's always dishes to be done, cooking for them, those kind of things. So I have a lot of stuff that's going on, and so looking at that, I decided though that based on all these things, I can't really stop mid-semester going to class. I'm pretty sure that it would be frowned upon mid-semester if I were to call my department chair and tell him that I need to work on quilting for the next couple of weeks, so I'm not coming to class. I'm pretty sure it'd be frowned upon. My dairy boss would definitely have an issue with me calling and saying that I can't come to the dairy to do vet checks or to do moving cows or any of that stuff because my quilting projects need to be done. So I'm pretty sure that both my husband and father would protest if I stopped feeding them. I mean, they are grown people. They should be able to feed themselves, but I'm pretty sure that would be a protesting. So all in all, I probably cannot change a lot of these things that I'm doing. So that's when I really started focusing on only my free time. So I decided to do a time study in my measure phase. But before that, to make sure that I've got everything kind of outlined, I made a project charter with the dates that pretty much these presentations are due as kind of my target dates. And then I'll fill in the lessons learned as we go along. And then towards the end of the presentation, I'll show you the completed one. So for my initial measure phase, to do my time study, I picked 4 weekdays and 1 weekend over the next 2 weeks to see where all my time went. And I had to do some changing around because I needed to make sure that things come up, as happens everywhere, and determine if that's part of normal routine and should be included in my time study, or if it's an outlier and I should just exclude it. So there was a few things we had to change around, some stuff going on at school, stuff going on at home. But I did my time study by randomly picking 4 days out of a cup and created a check sheet. Initially, I just started rounding all my time up to 30 minutes or down to 30 minutes just to make it easy for graphing and recording of data. So some of the days did add up to over 24 hours, but you can see there that that's my time study of all the different things I spend my time on. But again, we decided to focus more on that free time. So this was the subjects I spent my time on: work, sleeping, home, school, transit, those kind of things. You can see quilting and hobbies are really small down at the bottom there. But because again, the goal is 50% of free time. So look specifically at the activities that I'm spending my free time on. And that is here in this Pareto chart. Using the same data that I had gathered from those 5 days, this is what I'm spending my free time on. And you can look there that quilting and reading, other would be like scrapbooking and other little hobbies that I have. I like to take pictures, which goes with scrapbooking and things. And then I do have a soaker tub, and since it is winter and I am a wuss, when I get cold, I like to go sit in my soak tub. But see, that kind of goes with reading too, because for the most part, the time that I'm in my tub, I'm reading. So those times kind of go together. But so this is what I looked at. I now need to do some analyzing. So I started using some root cause analysis tools, and the easiest one I use is 5 whys. And so you ask the first question of why does this happen? So my first question was, why am I only spending 37% of my free time on quilting? And so then you answer that question, and you ask another why, and then you answer that question. And you keep on going until you get to your final answer, or what's supposed to be your root cause. So, final answer was, I have other hobbies. So, my action that I'm going to implement during the improve step is that I'm going to prioritize my hobbies. So, quilting, because Christmas is coming and my projects are associated around Christmas, I'm going to prioritize my quilting hobby. So, I moved on into the improve phase. I did another time study to analytically prove that I was actually spending more time on quilting. I felt I was spending more time on quilting. My cursory analysis of my little check sheet that I had been keeping on my phone showed that I was spending more time on quilting, so I was all set that this was going to work. I was succeeding. And so I picked every day during the week of November 8th through the 14th, and I only focused on free time activities. So I only recorded my time I was spent doing my soaking in the tub or reading or quilting or those kind of things. And so rather than trying to also record in 30-minute increments, I recorded it in like every 5 minutes or so. So here we go with my data. Oh no, right? Quilting, only 42%. And I was spending more time reading than quilting. And so I needed to go back to my analyze phase to see what else is going on. And so improve again, step 2. After analyzing my data, I looked at that I was spending about 50% of my time reading. And so I did another 5Y chart and came up with that the reading activity is easier to manage in those smaller chunks of time. Okay, and so I have Kindle on my cell phone, and so it's pretty quickly, I can easily whip the cell phone out and start reading when I have downtime between classes, standing there cooking and things need to simmer or they need to bake or something like that. Easy enough to grab the cell phone, sit down, read for a few minutes, go back, stir some more, sit down, read for a few minutes. And so I figured out that reading is definitely something that I can manage in very small chunks of time. Where with my quilting, I need to be at home because I'm obviously not going to bring my sewing machine and my iron and my ironing board and all my fabric and my cutting pad and all of my cutting tools with me everywhere I go. So bringing all that to school, taking that all to the dairy, and then taking it back home is just not practical. So I decided that my next improvement phase was going to be I was going to limit the amount of reading I did at home. So I also, because I would sit down when I'm ready, I've got an hour, a couple hours that I can kind of just meander around and do some of my quilting to get set up. But I've figured out that I don't, other than really the weekends, there's really no time that I have that large of a chunk of time. So I decided that I needed to somehow or another change around how I was managing my quilting time. So I started leaving sticky notes on things. So rather than having to recount how many squares I had, rather than having to remeasure certain things, I also made myself a little template because as you cut the different parts of the fabric and they go in a different shape, I would have to stop and relook at my paper and figure out which shape it was supposed to go in. And so I made myself a template and I attached the template to the closet door that's right beside me so that I could just quickly glance up and quickly put together some chunks. And so I started managing my time around my quilting and started leaving myself little notes and those kind of things to help create efficiency, as well as I could just go in a 10-15 minutes, maybe I could cut 5 or 6 squares. I could leave them ready to be sewn together, and so I could just go in for like 10-15 minutes and quickly sew something together. So that is what I was trying for my improve take 2 step. Okay. So I did another time studies, and when I did that, you can see there that quilting was 57% of my time. So that was good. My goal is greater than 50%, and so my quilting was 57%. 57%. So success, yay! Now I felt I could move into the control phase. So moving into the control phase, what I wanted to see was my success sustainable, right? I did it for 1 week, but that doesn't mean I can do it all the time. So still using those same actions of leaving little notes in my templates and those kind of things, and not reading so much at home. I wanted to see if for at least 2 more weeks, because that's how much time we had left for our project, I was able to sustain making at least 50% of my free time going towards quilting. I did exclude Thanksgiving week because I had some more time off from school than normal, but we also had a lot of family things going on, and definitely took me all day to cook Thanksgiving dinner. We do the whole turkey and ham and every kind of vegetable and dessert you can think of. So I measured the week of November 29th through December 5th. Man, I can't talk this morning. And then December 6th through the 11th. So that is only 6 days because I am doing the presentation on Saturday morning. So I wasn't able to wait and see what Saturday actually came with for time. So looking at that, I did my additional time study, and you can see there in the little pie graphs that I spent 53% of my quilting during the week of the 29th, and the shortened week of the 6th here, I've spent 52%. I will this afternoon spend more time quilting, and so that number would go up slightly, but for the time study, I did manage to create and keep my time at least 50% on my quilting hobbies. So I was able to get my blanket off to the lady that does the actual quilting, the top to the bottom with the batting in between, and she's supposed to get it back to me the middle of next week so I can do all of the edging and finish it up. Meanwhile, I've been working on the tablecloths and the napkins and the placemats, because those I don't need to have her put on her big quilting machine. I can do those with my little machine. And so I was able to prioritize my hobbies. I was able to get the blanket off. I have probably another hour and a half or so when I get it back to get all the edging finished, and then it'll be done and ready to be wrapped. And then I'm working on my placemats, and I've got over half of them done, so we should have them done by Christmas. Yay! So in the future, I have learned that I can prioritize my hobbies, but in all honesty, for long term, I really don't want to, because I do the hobbies to be able to have free time and not be worried about how much time I'm spending on them. So in the future, unless I've got another deadline, I'm not going to prioritize my hobbies. However, I have learned some efficiency in my quilting that will improve my quilting even if it's not me trying to prioritize. So I completed my project charter, looking with my lessons learned as we went through this project. And so that's the completed one. And so I wanted to thank everybody for listening and giving me feedback on this presentation as we've gone through this semester in class on our DMAIC. And I look forward to seeing everybody else's presentation and good work. So thank you very much for all of your time, and good luck on the rest of your studies. So good luck on the semester, and I will maybe talk and email with some of you guys later. Bye-bye.